Good afternoon, students. Today I shall begin with introducing you once again to the concept of what is the main point of a passage. Like, how do you understand what is the main point or the conclusion of a passage, or what is the main argument of the author when he writes the piece. Like, you will be asked questions about what which of the following options would weaken or strengthen the author's argument, or you would be directly asked what is the main point of the passage. So today I am going to lead you through some very simple and also some difficult passages, but very short passages, which will clear your concept about what is the main point of a passage and how to derive the main point of the passage. Now I repeat once again, in a logical passage, there would be a certain point that the author is trying to convince you about. The author will try to explain to you this point, and he will give you reasons for what he believes in. And those reasons are known as premises. So when you get to a logical reasoning question, a logical reasoning passage, you must read that passage, try to understand what is the main point. Now, and then look for, are there any other statements in the passage which support this point? If you find certain other statements in the passage which support the point, then that point is the main point of the passage. Having said that, I will tell you that sometimes there could be some other statement in the passage which the author supports with a reason. But that may not be the main intention of the passage. Like, what is the main or the most important thing that the author is trying to tell you? So we will come to, as we come to longer passages, I will explain that point in further detail. Currently, I shall be doing shorter passages in which I will show you how to derive what is the main point of the passage. Now, let me share screen and here. So let me just read out what I have written in the first paragraph. So if the main point of the passage is supported by reasons, it is called a conclusion. The trick is to differentiate which statement the author is trying to get you to accept. That is, what is the conclusion? And which statements are being offered as reasons for accepting the conclusion. Okay? So what are you supposed to look for? You're supposed to look for what is the main point which the passage is trying to get me to accept or believe. But at the same time, you must be aware that in longer passages or even in shorter passages, even in passages consisting of just one statement, it is not necessary that the conclusion comes towards the end. It can appear anywhere within the passage. So when you read the passage, underline the sentence which you feel expresses the main point. Then, after that, the next step is to check whether the rest of the passage contains a reason or a series of reasons which support the main point. There may be passages where there are certain points which are not supported by reasons. So unless you get an answer to the following question, you will not consider that to be the main point. So the question that you now ask, does the rest of the passage give any extra information which tells me why I should believe this? Now, if the answer is no, then the sentence you have underlined is not a conclusion. If the answer is yes, then the sentence is a conclusion. Now, very short passages, as like the ones I'm going to deal with today, you can rewrite the passage. Suppose it is not written in the format of A, then statement B, then statement C, and therefore statement D, which is the conclusion. You can you should be able to rewrite the passage as a set of reasons followed by the conclusion, which you could introduce by so and therefore. Let me come to some examples and it will become clear as we go along. Now, let us look at the first example here. The new miracle drug Amrotil has caused unforeseen side effects of a devastating nature. Careful testing of the drug prior to its marketing could have prevented the problem caused by these side effects. No new drug should be released for public consumption without a thorough study of the side effects. Now, when you read this, you must first check to see which of the statements, which of the sentences are presented as facts and which is presented as an opinion by the author, and the opinion has been supported by reasons. What is presented as a fact would not be the main point or the conclusion of a logical reasoning passage. Now here, the first sentence, the new miracle drug Amrotil has caused unforeseen side effects. Yes, who is this? Does anybody want to say something? If somebody has their audio on, please mute your audios. The first sentence, the new miracle drug Amrotil has caused unforeseen side effects of a devastating nature. This has been presented as a statement, as a fact. There has been no reason given for this statement. Okay? Now, the next statement, careful testing of the drug prior to its marketing could have prevented the problems caused by these side effects. This has also been given as a fact. There have been given no reasons in support of this statement.
Ma'am, is this line a fact or an opinion?
If it were an opinion, then there would be reasons given in support of it. Can you see any reason which supports this?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
So therefore, it is presented as a fact over here. Now,
okay.
Yeah. So whenever you see a statement which is supported by facts, then only you can try to analyze whether it is the main point or not. Because there may be, like I said, in longer passages, a statement supported by a fact, but it is not the main point of what the author is trying to say. It may be just an example. But here, these two first sentences are presented as statements, as facts, which you have to take for granted. No reason is given supporting it. The third statement, no new drug should be released for public consumption without a thorough study of their side effects. This could be seen as an opinion of the author, which could be supported by the first two statements that have been presented to us. We can rewrite this statement in the following manner. No new drug should be released for public consumption without a thorough study of the side effects, because the new miracle drug Amrotil caused unforeseen side effects of a devastating nature, which problem could have been prevented by careful testing of the drug prior to its marketing. So if you take the third sentence as the main point, the author is trying to tell us that don't market any new drugs without testing for the side effects. Why? Because he's saying when a new drug, Amrotil, was marketed without a proper testing of its side effects, there were major side effects. And these major side effects could have been prevented by thorough testing. So he's giving us one reason which is in continuation of a second reason for his opinion that you should not market drugs without testing for side effects. So here the main point is the last sentence, which again to repeat, that no new drug should be released for public consumption without a thorough study of the side effects. He has given us two reasons for his statement. So this is the conclusion of this passage of 3 sentences. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. I go on to the next here. I cannot see. I think have we disabled the hand raising here? One sec. Let me see. Oh, yeah, I can. Yeah, I can see. Okay, yes, I can see your hands raised one by one, but that's difficult. Okay, great. Right. So would anybody like to read the second passage? You can unmute yourself and read. Okay, go ahead. Just 1 second. Let me find that place where I get everybody's names here. Yeah, right. Okay, so I will unmute one of you and please go ahead and. Okay, go ahead. Would you like to read?
We need to make railway travel more attractive to travelers. There are so many cars on the roads that the environment and human safety are under threat. Rail travel should be made cheaper. Everyone wants the road to be less crowded, but they still want the convenience of being able to travel by road themselves. People will not abandon the car in favor of the train without some new incentive, because the large number of cars.
No, that's it. The second part, I have rewritten the same thing. So don't look at it, in fact, right now. Would you be able to, would you like to take a guess at what the main point of the author is over here?
Ma'am, the author is trying to tell about the attraction of travelers toward the transportation system. Like railways seems to be cheaper. Everyone wants road to be less crowded, but still the convenience remains on the road by the people. Like there are arguments, but people like to travel by roadways.
Yeah. So here, what the author has told us is that there are a lot of people on the road. Roads are getting crowded now, but we need to address this problem of too much crowding on the road, and there is a solution that he is offering. Okay, so he is driving at one main point because there is too much crowd on the road, and everybody wants the convenience to be, wants the roads to be free. But what can we do? How can we make the roads less crowded? What is the author's opinion about that? What has he said in this passage? So in short, my question I'm asking you is, what is the author's opinion about how roads can be made less crowded? Would anybody like to answer? Okay, go ahead.
Ma'am, when he tries to say that when rail travel would be cheaper, so it will attract more travelers with respect to roadways.
Yes, absolutely. So now I have rewritten the same passage, putting this conclusion, which you have very rightly pointed out, is the conclusion of the author in this passage. So if you rewrite it like this, because the large number of cars on the roads are bad for the environment and human safety, and because, so that's one reason. Second reason is, and because people will not abandon the car in favor of the train without some new incentive, we need to make rail travel more attractive. And this can be done by making rail travel cheaper. So his conclusion is, so rail travel should be made cheaper. So you understand, like he has given many reasons. Like first he's told us the problem that there is a lot of crowd on the road, and people like to travel by road because it is convenient. And so if they are to give up their convenience, some other incentive should be given to the traveler, because otherwise they will not give up the convenience of traveling by road. So you have to make rail travel more attractive. You have to give some incentive. And what incentive can we give? We can do that by making rail travel cheaper. So more people would be attracted to travel by rail, thus reducing the uh, crowd on the road. So the main point he's trying to tell us is rail travel should be made cheaper. Now, if I put this in the beginning, if I say rail travel should be made cheaper, because we need to make rail travel attractive to people so that people will start traveling by rail, so that the crowd on the road will be reduced. So you see how we need to cull out what is the main point the author is trying to tell us, and we also need to understand what are the reasons he is giving in support of his statement or opinion or whatever he is convinced of, and he wants us also to be convinced of. Now we'll going on to the next example. Now I have not written out the rest of them in the other format. So you will have to, okay. Who would like to read C and then try to answer what the main point is? I see no raised hands. Okay, go ahead.
The number of crimes reported to the police is rising. The overall crime rate may not be rising. Traditionally, only a quarter of what most people regard as crime has been notified to the police. According to me, the main point of this statement, ma'am, can be the crime rate, according to which it's increasing. The crime rate is not increasing, but the report is increasing to the police that crimes are being held. I think so. The main point should be the crime rate. Or
yeah. Crime, what about the crime rate? You have to give me one complete sentence.
People have become now more conscious and more open to report to the police. Maybe this could be the answer.
That is presented as a fact to you. You have not been, have you been given any reason for that?
Ma'am, there is a reason, no? The overall crime.
Sorry.
Ma'am, can I explain?
Yes, who is speaking now? I can't see who's, okay, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Okay, ma'am, he just tells that, so since there is only a quarter of people who are reporting the crimes, there's no change in the crime rate, but there are still crimes going.
Yeah.
So that is what it is like.
But what is you have given me a summary of the entire 3 sentences, out of which there is one main point that the author is telling us, and let me tell you that 2 of these statements are reasons, and one is the main point that he's trying to tell us. So which of the sentences is the main point and which 2 are the supporting reasons?
Ma'am, the last sentence is the main point, I think.
Ma'am, it is the overall crime rate may not be rising is the main point.
Yes, that is that. Yes, that is correct. How come more than? I mean, Please, one person talk at a time, because and only the one person I unmute, please talk, because otherwise it's getting confusing to get the correct answer. Right. So who was the person who said that the overall crime rate may not be rising is the main point? Please unmute yourself and explain your answer, please.
Ma'am, it was me who told that. So why I got into this point is that because he gives a fact that only there are around quarter of people who are reporting the crimes to the police. So ma'am, how I got to know about this is I just made some small generalization wherein there are crimes are increasing. So if I can take one day one crime happens, the next day 2 crimes happen. But if we compare the last year data and this year's data, the data are same. So that tells like the people are not reporting. So what these two are the facts which come into the conclusion of the second sentence, ma'am. So that is how I thought.
Yes, actually, what you're saying is right. I'll just explain it in more simple language. Like the first sentence, if you see, the number of crimes reported to the police is increasing. Now, there could have been reasons for this, because people are now less scared to go to the police, because there is more awareness, or certain other reasons could have been given. But here in this passage, this is just given to you as a fact. The number of crimes reported to the police is rising. No reasons for it has been given. It is a fact that is being told to you. The overall crime rate may not be rising. Now from here, the author is trying to tell you, like if you connect it, it could be connected by the word but. The number of crimes reported to the police is rising, but the overall crime, but this does not mean that the overall crime rate is rising, is what the author is trying to tell us. Now the third sentence, he's also given us a fact. Traditionally, only a quarter of what most people regard as crime has been notified to the police. Now, if I put this, if I reorder these sentences, I can say that traditionally, only a quarter of people reported what we understand to be crimes. Now, more people are, more crimes are being reported. But this does not mean that the overall crime rate is increasing, because the crime is remaining the same. Like first, suppose there were 20 murders, only 10 of them were reported. Now 15 are reported, but that doesn't mean that the crime rate has increased, right? So the author is telling you as a conclusion, the author's conclusion is, though the number of crimes reported to the police is increasing, the overall crime rate actually may not be actually increasing, because it's just that increased number just reflects that more people are reporting the crimes. Okay? So the main conclusion here is the overall crime rate may not be rising, because the increase in number is just a reflection of the fact that more than quarter people are now reporting crimes. So if I had to just underline the main point, it would be this sentence: the overall crime rate may not be increasing, and this underlined sentence would be the main point, and the first sentence and the third sentence would give us reasons for the author's conclusion. This is the author's conclusion. He has noted 2 facts: that originally very few people reported crimes. Second fact, he has noted that more people are now reporting crimes. But he has drawn a conclusion that does not mean that the overall crime rate is increasing. It is just a reflection of more people reporting the crime. Now, next one, D. Any raised hands? I don't see any raised hands here. Okay, so this one I'll take. Actually, it was a little difficult one also. So it's good I've explained it. So most crime is committed by those under 21. But most people aged under 21 are not criminals. Some people aged over 21 are persistent offenders. So let me take one sentence at a time. Most crime is committed by those aged under 21. I do not see any reason given for this statement. There could have been reason because, people under 21 are innocent. Other people may take advantage of them, brainwash them into committing some crimes. Reasons could have been assigned to this, but the author has not assigned any reason, nor has not given us any reason. So you see, in a passage, you have to not apply your own mind and try to find reasons for the statements that are given. Just look at what the author has told us. Has he given reasons or has he not given reasons? He has not given any reasons for his first statement. He has presented it as a fact. Second sentence, but most people aged under 21 are not criminals. So he's saying that though, like suppose there are 50 crimes committed in a neighborhood, then maybe 40 of them may have been committed by people who are under 21. But that does not mean that, suppose there are 500 people in that community who are 21, so 400 of them may not have committed any crimes, only 100 of them may have committed those 40 crimes which were committed by people aged under 21. So the second sentence has also been presented as a fact, like I'm just giving you numbers so that you can understand these statements better. The author has not given us any numbers, just to help you understand the statements. But here again, the author has not given us any reasons in support of his statement. He has just presented it as a fact. Third sentence, he has said that in fact, some people aged over 21 are persistent offenders. Now that does not make any change to whether or not people under 21 are offenders or criminals or not at all. He is stating another fact, that sometimes some people over 21 are persistent offenders. From here, at most you can draw the inference, that the author might be suggesting that people under 21 may not be persistent offenders. That inference you may draw, but apart from that, you do not get any reasons for why people under 21 do what they do or why people over 21 do what they do. Here, all three sentences are presented as independent facts, and we cannot find a main point in these sentences. One of the points is, or one of the statements is not supported by any or either of the other two statements. So in this question number D, there is no conclusion. There is no main point. There is no conclusion. All three sentences are facts. Now, having introduced you to this type of passage, let me also tell you that in your logical reasoning paper, you will not be given a passage like this. All the passages that will be given to you will have a conclusion supported by reasons or premises. I just introduced this passage so that your concept about your conclusion would become clearer. Now, going on to the next one, and in case anybody has any questions in the middle, you can ask. Yes, I think there's a question here. Yes, go ahead.
It's not a question. I wanted to start with E.
Right. Okay, go ahead.
He must be older than he says he is. He told us he was 42, but he has a daughter who is at least 30 years old. So I think the conclusion over here is he must be older than he says he is, because the reasons for that will be that even if he said that he's 42, he has a daughter who is at least 30 years old. Correct. So that will be the reason, and the first sentence will be the conclusion.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And if you wanted to be like 100% correct, you could say that you could rephrase it and say that he must be older than the 42 years he claims to be, because that
he has a daughter who is at least 30 years old.
Correct. So the first part would be his main point or his conclusion, supported by the reason that his daughter is at least 30 years old. Absolutely correct. Okay, moving on to the next one. Why is my screen frozen? This F has disappeared. One second. F is extremely easy. Who would like to try it? Okay.
The bus is late, it must have broken down. So the conclusion over here is that the bus has broken down, and the reason is because we can frame it like the bus has broken down because it is late.
Aren't you in the reverse order here?
The bus has been late because it was broken down.
Yes, ma'am. The
bus-
bus.
But I
not
think the
broken down
person is
because it is
guessing
late.
based on the fact that it has broken down. Okay, it must have.
You are
broken
wrong.
because it is late.
No, who is speaking? Who is the boy's voice here? I would request you not to speak over another student. You're most welcome to raise your hand and I'll come to you. So please raise your hand and I'll ask you to. Yes. Right, go ahead now.
Ma'am, he says that the author, like the person who has written this passage, he has said that it must have broken down. That means he's sure that it has broken down, and he's like, and because of this, he tells that the bus is late because somewhere it must have been broken down, and because of that, bus is late. So the bus is late because it has broken down.
So what is the main point? Which of it is the main point? Do you say? Is the first sentence, is the bus is late the main point, or it must have broken down? Is that the main point?
Ma'am, I think the first sentence, the bus is late, is the main point, I presume.
Yes, that is correct. The bus is late is a fact. You know, somebody is standing on the road waiting for the bus and he sees that the bus is late. Okay, that's a fact. The bus is late because it must have broken down. The reason he imagines. So he's wondering, why is the bus late? Okay, the bus is late. That's a fact. Now he starts thinking, why is the bus late? So he imagines a reason because it must have broken down. So it must have broken down is the reason, is the premise. And the main point here is the bus is late. Okay? Is that clear now? G. People who had raised their hands for the last question, maybe you can put down your hand, and G, whoever wants to answer, please raise your hand. Nobody for G? Okay, go ahead.
Ma'am, the conclusion for G can be that you should be confident enough to speak in public, because most of the people who want people to be their employees, they want them to be confident.
Correct. So yeah, yes, you're right, because you rightly put the reason after because, but the main point, what you said, you added something from the second sentence to the first sentence. You need not do that. Here, the main point can just be stated to be, you should try to appear confident in your job interview because the employers are looking for someone who can speak confidently in public. So simply the first sentence here, this one is the main point of these two sentences. Okay, you just join it by because. So this is the main point, and the reason of the premise is the employers are looking for someone who can speak confidently in public. Now we come to H, which is a little difficult, but it would be interesting to try this. Can I see some raised hands, please? Yes, go ahead.
knowing the danger of smoking is not sufficient to stop people from smoking. 1/3 of the population still smokes. Everyone must know that smoking causes lung cancer and heart diseases. Ma'am, so the main point would be knowing the danger of smoking is not sufficient to stop people from smoking because it causes lung cancer and heart diseases.
You got the main point.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Knowing the dangers of smoking is not sufficient.
And the conclusion would be 1/3 of the population still smokes.
No. Here, the conclusion and the main point. Okay, let me once again explain to you the relationship between the conclusion and the main point. When there is a passage in which something is stated as an opinion of the author, and which is, what is the point that the author is trying to drive at, it is known as the main point of the passage. And when we can find the reasons the author gives in support of this main point, then the same main point is now known as the conclusion. So a main point supported by reasons is the conclusion. So you can't have one main point and something else as the conclusion. They would be the same thing. Like you said, this is the main point. These are the reasons supporting the main point. So now the main point becomes the conclusion. Okay. So as you rightly said, knowing the dangers of smoking is not sufficient to stop people from smoking. This is the author's opinion. Now, how does he support this? Because he says that even though people know that smoking causes lung cancer, still 1/3 of the population continues to smoke. These are the reasons he gives in support of his statement that, or his conclusion, that knowing the dangers of smoking is not sufficient to stop people from smoking. Okay, do you want to say something? I see one raised hand. So is that clear here? See, 1/3 of the population still smokes is given as a fact. Everyone must know that smoking causes lung cancer and heart disease is also given as a fact. So from here, he derives, from these two facts, he comes to the conclusion that even though people know that smoking causes cancer, but knowing the dangers of smoking is not sufficient to stop at least 1/3 of the population from smoking. Okay? So the main point is the first sentence here. Okay, I, who would like to try I? So cigarette advertising should be banned because it encourages young people to start smoking. Now here, the first part of the sentence, cigarette smoking should be banned. There is a reason given for that, because the second part is the reason given. It encourages young people to start smoking. So in the very first sentence, we have a point which is supported by a reason. Let us see if there is any other point which is more important than this and is also supported by reasons. So we read on, but even if it had no such influence on young people, it should be banned because it gives existing smokers the mistaken impression that their habit is socially acceptable. Now we see that the second sentence also, what is it doing? It is giving us another reason why cigarette advertising should be banned. So it can be seen as a second premise for the same point. The point being cigarette advertising should be banned because number one, it encourages young people to start smoking, and number two, it gives existing smokers the mistaken impression that their habit is socially acceptable. So what the author has done here is given us two reasons why cigarette smoking should be banned. He's saying that even if the first reason be not considered valid, like suppose some person even argues that it does not encourage young people to start smoking, then he gives us another reason why cigarette smoking should be banned. So here in this passage, it's one main point here, or the conclusion, because we have found two reasons in support. This is one conclusion here supported by two premises. It encourages young people to start smoking, and secondly, it tells the existing smokers that their habit is acceptable. We have two premises, one main point or conclusion over here. This was pretty simple actually. This was quite direct. Any questions up till now? If you have not understood any of the passages till now, I'll repeat it right now. If I don't see any raised hands, then I'll go on to the next type of questions. Okay. So in the next set of questions, we have a first statement, which is the conclusion. And then we have three options, one of which will give you the reason for the first statement, which is the conclusion. Now, you will find these kind of questions coming in different formats, like sometimes the same thing will be given, and the first, what is known as conclusion over here, will be written as statement, and you will be given two assumptions, assumption 1 and assumption 2 after that, and you will be asked which of the following is implicit, or the options given will be assumption 1 is implicit, assumption 2 is implicit, or both 1 and 2 are implicit, or neither are implicit. Now, what does that mean? When an assumption is implicit, it means that if the assumption were not true, the conclusion would not follow. The conclusion would not hold if assumption 1 or assumption 2, whatever you choose, were not true. It has to be true for the conclusion to be true. So, in simple language, which of the following is the reason for the given statement or the given conclusion? Now, let's read what the question states over here. In each question, pick the answer which could be a reason for accepting the truth of the conclusion, and say why is this the right answer and why the other options are wrong. Note that you're not to worry about whether the reason is true. You must just consider whether, if it were true, your chosen reason would support the conclusion. Such reasons are known as implicit assumptions. Yes, would you like to try the first one?
Yes, ma'am. In this question, it is written, blood donor should be paid for giving blood. So according to me, the C should be the answer. That is reason.
Actually.
Who else is speaking? Please don't talk when another person is talking. You'll get your chance. Yes, go ahead.
As it is written that there is shortage of blood donor, and payment will encourage the more people to become donor. So here it is written that blood donor, if we pay the blood donor, then there will be more encouragement for the people to donate the blood. So it will be more correct reason for the conclusion. Whereas option A and B may be correct, but D, C mostly is the good reason for the conclusion.
Yes, you're right. That's see, because now you can look at it in another way. Like suppose we take option A. Blood donors should be paid for giving blood because the blood donor service is expensive to administer. Now, if it is already expensive to administer, if we start paying blood donors, it will become more expensive. So obviously, option A is not a good reason for giving money to blood donors. Look at option B. if we say blood donors should be paid for giving blood because people who give blood usually do so because they want to help others. So if they're giving blood because they want to help others, why should we be giving them money? So this does not make any sense. It is not a good reason for giving money to the blood donors. But like the student who answered said, that they should be paid for giving blood because there is a shortage of blood donors and payment would encourage more people to become blood donors. So this seems to be a very good reason to start paying people because not enough people are coming forth. And if we pay people, if we pay them money for giving blood, we would be getting more blood. There is a shortage of blood and we need more blood. And by paying them, we would get more blood donors. So therefore, definitely option C is the correct answer here. And we could even say that option C is implicit for the statement, blood donors should be paid for giving blood. The next one, who would like to try that one? Okay.
Ma'am, in the second one, the correct implicit assumption will be B. Skill can easily be taught, but personalities are difficult to change. As because ma'am, skill is learnable, ma'am. We can learn it, but personality is difficult to change. We can develop it as a good way or a bad way.
Correct. So and also to explain why the other options are wrong. So when choosing someone for a job, employers should base the decision on the applicant's personalities rather than on the skills. So here we must choose an option which gives importance to personalities because we have to give a reason why the employer should base the decision on personalities. So if we look at option A, personalities may change over time and skills go out of date. Now if personalities change, why should the employers base their decision on personalities? They are looking for somebody with a good personality and then the personality goes and changes. So obviously option A is not correct. Option B, skills can be taught but personalities are difficult to change. Yes, this does give us a good reason for the employers to choose employees on the basis of personalities, because if they get somebody with a good personality, that personality will not change, it will remain good. And even if he does not have skills, that skill can be taught to him. This is what option B tells us, and it fits in with the conclusion drawn. But if we look at option C, some skills cannot be acquired by anyone, but anyone can develop a good personality. So then why should we choose person on basis of personality? If anyone can develop a good personality, it would be the reason for choosing somebody with good skills. So that would be not fit in with the conclusion. It would not make the conclusion true. So therefore, as rightly said, option B is the correct answer here. Going on to number 3. Go on.
Ma'am, I think I'm not sure, but I think answer should be A. Conclusion: light-skinned people should avoid exposure to the sun. A. Ultraviolet lights from the sun can cause skin cancer on light skin.
Yes.
Because okay, yes, ma'am.
You're absolutely correct. So what you should do in questions like this is read the conclusion given or the statement given and add a because after that, and then read each option one by one and see which one fits better. As you say option A, so light-skinned people should avoid exposure to the sun because ultraviolet light from the sun can cause skin cancer on light skins. Yes, it gives us a very good reason for the conclusion to be true. Had this not been true, suppose ultraviolet light from the sun did not cause skin cancer on light skins, then it would not make sense for light-skinned people to avoid exposure to the sun. So it is a very good reason. Now, for light-skinned people avoiding that exposure. Now, you should always also see that your answer should be such that if it were not true, the conclusion would be tendered false. Okay? So in these, I'm going on repeating this because the questions that I am discussing today, the answer is not very difficult to find. It is kind of, the other two options are not really very good reasons, and it is easy to pick out the answer. But sometimes it would be little more difficult than this. In fact, it would be more difficult than this in the exam. We are just starting with the easy ones. So while you are choosing the correct answer, be very mindful of the fact that you must choose such an answer which, if it were not true, would make the conclusion or the given statement to be wrong. So with that, let us go on to the next question. Sorry, that went by. Okay, 4. Yes.
Ma'am, I think the answer would be installing insulation in your house may be economic in the long run, as less fuel is needed to heat a house which has been insulated.
Correct. Absolutely correct. The other two, in a house which has been insulated, the air feels warmer, does not make sense, does not give a good reason, and neither does option C. So you're right, option A is correct. Question 5. Go ahead.
Conclusion: in order to reduce crime, we should not use imprisonment as a punishment for young offender. And it should be C. Young offenders are more likely to reoffend if their punishment has been a term of imprisonment.
Correct. You're absolutely correct. So now option A could also be a sort of reason, because
Option A can be the answer because it goes best. See, like young offenders could be taught job skills wishless in the prison.
okay, now read the whole thing. In order to reduce crime, we should not use imprisonment as a punishment for young offenders. So we have to find a reason why we should not send young people to prison. And option A, in fact, is giving us a reason for why we should send them to prison, because it says while they're in prison, we could teach them skills. So in fact, it is contrary. Does not give us a reason why we should not send young people to prison. The conclusion says, in order to reduce crime, we should not use imprisonment as a punishment for young offenders, which means we should not send young people to prison. So option A does not give a good reason. It would be expensive to build new prisons to relieve prison overcrowding. Now, this is true. There is overcrowding, and if we
can be.
put people to prison, it would lead to overcrowding. But this is not a good enough reason to not send them to prison. I mean, like, just because the system is overcrowded, now should we stop punishing people? That does not give a good reason for not imprisoning them, not sending them to prison. But if you look at option C, that gives us a very good reason for not sending young people to prison, because it says that if you send young people to prison, it is likely that when they come out of prison, they will commit offenses again. So they're trying to tell us that in prison, instead of getting reformed, they will become more hardened criminals. So now, like, even if you might for a minute want to choose B, when you see C, which gives you a much better reason, a much stronger reason for the conclusion to be true, you have to choose option C. Option B is kind of relevant, but it is not sufficient. It may be a relevant reason, but it is not a sufficient reason to not send people to prison. For then, I mean, it would be the administration's job to, somehow, if imprisoning young people was the only way to prevent more crimes, then the administration would have to do something or the other to, build more prisons and reduce the overcrowding. So option C is correct, not option A. Let's go for 6 now. Question number 6.
B. Sam
Please
could
do not,
not
please do
have
not
gained
answer.
anything by committing the
Please
murder.
do not, excuse me, please do not answer unless I have asked you to unmute. Please mute yourself.
Ma'am, the answer to question number 6, Sam could not have committed the murder, would be C. Sam was several miles away from the scene of the murder when the victim was stabbed to death, and this is the reason why Sam could not have committed the murder.
Correct. So what I would like you all to answer the questions in this manner. You read the conclusion. Sam could not have committed the murder because Sam was several miles away from the scene of the murder when the victim was stabbed to death. Then you need not even, further explain, because yes, this makes sense. Now I would like you to but explain why option A and B are not good options. Yes, same person, please go on. Go ahead. You don't want to try?
Ma'am,
I was
think
unmuted. Ma'am, first option, Sally had both opportunity and motive to commit the murder, which we don't really know about Sally.
No, in fact, we do know about Sally. He's telling us, the author is telling us that
Okay,
Sally
ma'am.
could have done it. Okay, but does it give us sufficient? Now, suppose I say Sam could not have committed the murder because Sally could have committed the murder. Now, this gives a reason about
Yes, ma'am.
tell us why Sally could have committed the murder. It does not give us a reason to explain why Sam could not have committed the murder. So it
Yes,
is
ma'am.
not a good reason, right? So do you understand? Like, suppose I give you another example that Rakesh could not have stolen my pen because Ravi could have. Now, Ravi could have. Now, we are not testing whether Ravi did it or not. We are testing whether Rakesh did it or not, right? So, if another
Yes,
person
ma'am.
could also have done it, doesn't mean that first person could not have, right? That is why A is not a good reason. Now read the
Ma'am,
second one.
B. Sam could not have gained anything by committing the murder. Ma'am, here also it is like, ma'am, I'm not able to understand this option. B.
Okay. Okay, I think another person. Does anybody like to try this? Why B is not a good option? Yes, go ahead.
Ma'am, it can be good option, but C is more relevant. Also, there are many crimes happening where people have no gain or they have no benefit of murdering someone. So Sam could not have gained anything by committing murder. Many people are there who murder the people but not gain anything. So B should be not the answer.
Yes, so just because he did not gain anything by murder does not mean that he could not have come. Here we are talking about the capacity. Like Sam could not have committed the murder. They did not even say that Sam did not commit the murder. They are saying that Sam could not have
Could
committed
not
the
have
murder
committed the murder.
because he could not have gained anything by. So they are just telling us that he did not have a motive probably, but his capability we cannot deny. Like suppose I say that mm, uh, suppose somebody I say is very weak, okay, and I say that he could not have slapped somebody very hard. And anyway, even if he had slapped, he would not have. Why would he slap? Like he did not gain anything from that. When the reason given does not support the statement, like whether he could not have committed the murder because he did not have anything to gain, is not a valid reason. Like even if he did not have anything to gain, his capability could have been there. So therefore, it does not give us a good reason, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. For number 7, I have a number of hands raised here. Go ahead, please.
A vegetarian diet may be beneficial to health because a vegetarian diet excludes animal fats which can cause heart diseases.
Absolutely right. Now tell me why option A is wrong.
Option A is wrong because if it lacks certain important vitamins, then it is not beneficial for health.
Correct.
So that won't be necessary. Like it's just out of option. For
Right.
C, excludes fish oil, which is thought to be beneficial to health. That is exactly the same thing. Fish oil is beneficial, and vegetarian diet does not have that. So that is also not a reason.
No, I don't agree with the reason that you have given for C.
Because
Like,
it excludes fish oil, which is thought to be beneficial.
so if fish oil is beneficial for health, and vegetarian diet obviously does not include fish oil, so how can it be a reason for the vegetarian diet to be beneficial? I mean, if fish oil is beneficial, it should be included, right? So,
Yes,
but
so
then,
it excludes fish oil. That is why it's not a reason.
no, no, this is not a good explanation. You're right about your answer, but about your explanation for C, I would like to give somebody else a chance. Who would like to do that? Okay, tell me.
Ma'am, here option C, a vegetarian diet excludes fish oil, which is thought to be beneficial of health. So here it is the reason why vegetarian diet is not beneficial for the health. Here it is same means in vegetarian diet we can't get fish oil as it is beneficial for the health. So she should not be the answer. It is for non-vegetarian diet which is beneficial to health.
No, we have to, here you have proved the conclusion wrong, that vegetarian diet is not beneficial for health. You're not supposed to be doing that. You're supposed to be giving me a reason. You're supposed to be, sorry, finding a reason why a vegetarian diet may be beneficial to health because. So you have to find a reason for this statement. You don't have to prove it wrong. Okay? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, here in option C, it is written that it is thought to be beneficial to health. Then can that be a loophole to this?
No, it's not a loophole. Okay, now you try.
Mm, Ma'am, a vegetarian diet excludes fish oil, which is thought to be beneficial to health. Ma'am, here because maybe fish oil is not very beneficial to health, and it is thought that it is
Excuse
beneficial
me,
to
ma'am.
health.
No.
Excuse me, ma'am. May
Yeah.
I?
Yes, go ahead.
Ma'am, here it is giving a beneficiary reason for fish oil, which is not included in a vegetarian diet.
Yes, ma'am.
So this could be the reason.
So it's not a reason for vegetarian diet to be beneficial, right? We are
Yes,
just
exactly.
right. We are not considering the benefits or not benefits or disadvantages of fish oil. We are only considering the benefits of a vegetarian diet. So now, even if fish oil is beneficial to health, that cannot be a reason for vegetarian diet to be beneficial for health. And we are looking for a reason to prove that vegetarian diet is beneficial. So obviously, the fact that a non-vegetarian thing is beneficial cannot support our conclusion. So we cannot use C to support our conclusion that a vegetarian diet is beneficial. So it does not either prove or disprove whether vegetarian diet is beneficial. It's like saying, giving reason for something else, which is not part of our conclusion. So therefore, it cannot be a reason, and thus we go back to option B, which we agreed was the correct answer. We're just trying to find why option C was not the correct answer. Okay. Okay, now option 8. I'm sorry, question 8.
Parents should be strongly recommended to have their children vaccinated against polio, because if the substantial percentage of the population is not vaccinated against polio, there will be outbreak of the disease every few years.
Correct. That is
Option A.
absolutely. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes. No, yes, ma'am. Okay. Option A, some parents think that there is a risk of harmful side effect from the polio vaccine. This option A give a strong reason that why should a parent should not vaccine their children with polio. And option C, the risk of becoming infected with polio is very low. So here it is also in the opposition of the conclusion that if polio's infection risk is very low, then it is no need to get
Correct.
vaccinated to children for the polio.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
You're absolutely right. Your explanation is also correct. That's absolutely right. Option B is the answer, and you have the correct explanation. So we go on to the next question. No raised hand till now.
Just 2 minutes.
Yes.
Ma'am, I can like try the answers, but then the other two options
You
are a
cannot
little
explain.
bit difficult.
Okay, let me
Yes,
know what
ma'am.
you think is the answer. Read the conclusion, the statement which is given as conclusion, add a because after that,
Yes, ma'am.
and then read the answer which you think is correct.
Those people. Okay, ma'am. Those people who die from drowning are more likely to be swimmers than to be non-swimmers. This is because people who cannot swim are more likely than swimmers to avoid risky water sports.
Absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. So this is a very valid reason now, because what the author is saying that people who do not swim, they will not be going into risky waters. So obviously only those people who swim, they will take the risk. They will go into the risky waters, and then obviously it is they who will die, na? Because people who are not swimmers are not there at all. Right. So now, if you look at the second and third option, uh, people who die from drowning are more likely to be swimmers than to be non-swimmers, because many deaths from drowning occur because people on boating holidays fail to wear life jackets. Now, people who, whether they are swimmers or non-swimmers, they all need to wear life jackets. And people who don't wear life
Yes, ma'am.
jackets will drown or not drown. We don't know whether they were swimmers or not swimmers. That
Hmm.
doesn't give us a good reason to support the conclusion.
Yeah.
And if we look at option C, because even those who can swim may panic if they fall into the sea or a river, that tells us that people who swim may drown. This does not tell us that why it is that people who drown are found to be swimmers rather than non-swimmers. I mean, like, if non-swimmers had fallen into the sea, they would surely drown. So therefore, that does not give us a reason why more swimmers are found to be drowning rather than non-swimmers, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
the only one which gives us a reason why, uh, I mean, one would, in the normal course of events, think that if they're risky waters and people are drowning, obviously it must be that people who can't swim are drowning. But the author is telling us, no, this is an anomaly. This happens because in the risky waters, non-swimmers don't even venture. So obviously, those who die are
Hmm.
swimmers because they are the only people there. So definitely you're right. Where
Okay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
option is A, correct. So with that,
Thank you, ma'am.
yeah, welcome. So with that, I come to the end of this worksheet that I had prepared today. Uh, is there anybody who has any questions regarding what we have studied today or any related topic? No. Okay. So then give me a minute. I'll just open some more questions and I'd like you all to read this passage which is given on your screens. Sorry. Would anybody like to read it aloud?
There is a good news for lovers of seafood. Aquaculture is seeing great advances and will meet nearly 3/4 of the seafood requirements of the world by 2030. Aquaculture is destined to become the major supplier of animal protein. It is much more efficient than other animal farming in that it requires less resources in terms of feed, water, and land. Aquaculture also emits less of the harmful carbon than livestock production on land. However, aquaculture requires as fertilizer and fish food large amounts of fish food, which at the moment is sourced from fish such as anchovies and sardines caught in the wild. These fish are forage fish and an important part of the food chain. Reduction in their numbers will disrupt the marine ecosystems as these forage fish feed on plankton and in turn seabirds and marine animals and even other fish feed on these fish. Thus, care must be taken to see that the numbers of anchovies and sardines are not drastically reduced owing to their use in aquaculture. If an alternative feed is found, aquaculture has the potential of supplying the demands of an increasing global population. In fact, since 1990, there has been an increase in the amount of wild fish caught for use in aquaculture as the number of such fish is already depleting. Soya-based food is replacing fish oil in the diet of farmed fish to a large extent. Research is being conducted on the use of microalgae, insects, and genetically modified plants as fish feed. There are some roadblocks currently. For example, the exoskeletons of some insects such as silkworms and termites that are rich in protein contain chitin, which is indigestible and could contain accumulated pesticides. Fermented microalgae feed produced using single cell technology and fermentation could prove the answer. Another technology is being developed using gas fermentation. It is claimed that this fish food can be manufactured without using any arable land and almost no water.
So, what do you think the topic of the passage would be? If you had to give a topic to the passage, what would you give? Okay,
अरे अपना चार्जर
please don't unmute yourself unless I pick on you. Okay. Would you? Okay. Please, would you like to tell me what would you choose as the topic?
Sorry, ma'am.
What would you give as the topic of this passage? If you had to give a topic to this passage, what would you say?
Yes, ma'am. aquaculture.
I think you can take some time to think. I go on to the next student.
Benefit, we can, I think, benefit or advantage of seafood or aquatic animals.
They're not talking about the advantage, they're talking about the shortage of the forage fish in the sea. Like, I mean, even when you're going to fish, the people who love seafood, now the problem that has been pointed out in this is that if you catch a lot of the wild fish, then we are depleting the resources, right? So how to increase that resources of wild fish? What is the alternate? How can we get seafood without depleting the resources in the sea? That is the problem being addressed in this passage. Okay? So I could tell as the topic how to have seafood without depleting natural resources.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Now, let's look at the first question. Only those who want to answer the first question, please raise your hands. Others may please. So, who would like to read and answer the first question?
Which of the following forms the premise for author's argument that soya-based food is replacing fish oil in the diet of farmed fishes to a large extent? Ma'am, I think the answer should be A. The exoskeleton of some insects contains chitin, which is indigestible and cannot be used as a fish feed.
First, let us understand the question. Okay, so which of the following forms the premise? Means reason. Premise just is another word for reason. So which of the following forms the reason for the author's argument that soya-based food is replacing fish oil in the diet of farmed fish to a large extent? Now here, let me also point out a few things about this type of question. In this, they have actually stated this argument. Soya-based food is replacing fish oil in the diet of farmed fish to a large extent. This is the argument of the author that you have to deal with in this question. Suppose this part was not there. Like suppose this entire part that soya-based food is replacing, etc., was not given. Then we would have to address the question keeping the entire passage in mind. Whatever the main point of the passage was, we would have to keep in mind. But in this type of question, we have to test only on the basis of this particular argument. Now, this particular argument is that soya-based food is replacing fish oil in the diet of farmed fish. Because now we have to find something which fits after because. We have to find which of the following is a good reason. Now you have said that because the exoskeletons of some fish, some insects contain chitin, which is indigestible and cannot be used as fish feed. Now this can be a very good reason for not using insects as fish oil in the diet of
Ma'am, I
farmed fish.
understood. In the last part, it is written also. Yes, ma'am, I understood. So this
Okay,
won't be the
great,
answer.
great.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Correct. Now, do you want to change your answer?
Ma'am, then B. The
B
production of soya does not require arable land and little water.
Okay,
Ma'am,
so
this again is not according to what it is written in the question.
Yeah, so I mean, soya-based food is replacing fish oil because soya does not require arable land and little water. But there could be other things also which do not require arable land or little water. I mean, this could be a reason. This is a relevant reason. But can you see any other reason which is more primary, more important than these.
Ma'am, so the answer can be D. The current
D.
source of fish
Yes,
oil is
ma'am.
getting depleted.
Ma'am,
Yes,
D can be the answer.
And so people are more based on.
yes, this is actually the correct answer because soya-based food is. Let us now look at the passage and see where we can find this. Where does it talk about soya-based food and etc. Okay, so now let's try to find aquaculture, animal protein, aquaculture. So here it is, alternate food is found, aquaculture, the potential. So we need to find alternate feed. Now, then it says 1990, then, okay. So soya-based food is replacing fish oil in the diet of farm fish to a large extent. Now, why? Why?
Just before the sentence, it is here written as the number of such fish is already depleting.
Correct. So therefore, we need to find alternate fish, alternate feed. So this is the primary reason because the current source of fish oil is getting depleted. So we do not have enough food to feed the seafood which we are going to eat. So therefore, we need to give them some alternate feed, which is soya-based food that we are zoning in on. So therefore, the correct answer is D. Yes, because unka food kam ho gaya, we need to give them another type of food. Now, I think actually now question number 1.2 would be easy to answer because the answer was already given in question number 1.1 option of question number 1.1. So who would like to try this one? Okay.
And here the answer aquaculture would use silkworm and termite as feed for farmed fishes because already we are facing a shortage of forage fishes, and it is mentioned in the
Ma'am,
last part of the
option A.
Yes, I will give you a chance. Please don't unmute and talk. Please raise your hand. Let one student finish talking. I'll give you a chance. I'll come to you. Yes, go ahead.
yeah, should be A.
Yes, ma'am. It should be A.
Because
Okay.
if chitin is digestible, then
The
the people related to aquaculture, they would use silkworm and termite as a feed for farm fishes because already we are facing a shortage of forage fishes.
No, but then if you are facing a shortage for forage fishes, then why only silkworms and termites? We could use soya-based food, etc. Now we are looking for a reason uh, why, if chitin had been digestible, then what would have happened? So what would have happened if chitin had been digestible? So we must go to the passage and see where it has been mentioned about chitin being digestible or not digestible. So we have to answer according to what is given. So here we look at this sentence. There are some roadblocks currently, for example, etc. Now they say
Ma'am,
that
for the
we are,
exoskeleton, yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
there
Maybe
are some.
okay, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Ma'am, shall I read?
You read it in your mind. You don't have to read it aloud. After
Okay, ma'am.
reading this sentence, you tell me why you choose that answer.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, after reading this, because we need food for the fishes that are cultivated.
Your volume, I cannot hear you.
Ma'am, then you give any other one because I think there's some connection error.
Okay, now you're
Ma'am, are
audible.
you able to hear me?
Yes, now I'm able to hear you.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, so the fishes that are cultivated basically, so they feed upon the of two types. And now, since we are facing the shortage of the forage fishes, we need to find some alternative because the forage fishes are important for our ecosystem.
You need not go into all this detail for this answer. All that you need to answer is, if chitin had been digestible, what would have happened? Now, in this sentence, it says that there are some roadblocks currently. For example, the exoskeletons of some insects, such as silkworms and termites, that are rich in protein, contain chitin, which is indigestible and could contain accumulated spices. So, therefore, it is giving a reason that because of chitin being indigestible, it cannot be used as uh, a feed for the fish, because this is what the entire passage is about. Now, if it had been digestible, then obviously it would have been used as feed. That is the simply what the little point that we are concerned with right now. So the reason they gave us a reason why we cannot use chitin. It is not digestible and it might contain pesticides, so we cannot use it. Now, if it had been digestible, we would have used it. That is the simple answer that we are looking for. So option A, if chitin had been digestible, uh, we would have aquaculture would have used silkworms and termites as feed for farm fish. That is the simple answer. It would have been a good source for animal protein for humans. No, the author has not mentioned about anything about us eating things which contain chitin. Production of forage fish would vastly improve. No, this. So you just have to limit yourself to that part of the passage which tells you about chitin, whether it is digestible or non-digestible, and what are the consequences of it being digestible or non-digestible. Okay. Now we'll just take the next question now, and I think that will be the last question for today. We are enough running out of time. Yes, I think you would like to answer. Yes, go ahead. Would you like to answer?
Ma'am, I have one question.
Well, I'll take your question after finishing this 1.3.
Sure.
People,
Thank you.
there is somebody called Neha. Your hand is up. Would you like to answer? I'm asking you to unmute.
I think C.
Who is speaking now? Please raise your hand before you speak. I cannot. Okay, yes, C is the correct answer. Okay, would you go ahead and tell me? Explain the answer to me. No? Nobody wants to explain why C is the correct answer, or alternatively why A, B, or D are the wrong answers. Okay, so then let me explain which of the following can we infer from the passage above. Now, what does that mean? When we infer something from a passage, means that it is not directly written in the passage, but we can understand the same from a reading from the passage. Now, option A says that forage fish are plentiful in the oceans. In fact, the opposite can be inferred from reading the passage, right? Because the author is going on about how forage fish are becoming fewer and fewer and how we must find alternate sources of feeding the aqua food, seafood. So this is not the right answer. Fish is the world's favorite source of animal protein. No, this is talking about a lot of seafood. It does not tell us, the author does not draw any distinction between fish and other types of seafood. He just talks about the shortage of seafood and how people like eating seafood. So this cannot also be inferred from the passage. Now option C, livestock production causes a great strain on resources such as land and water. This has been mentioned in the passage because many a times he has talked about, which some, what takes a large amount of resources to, if there's something takes a large amount of resource to feed it, then we cannot use that as feed for the food that we are going to eat. And he has talked about this kind of situation. Now let us look at option D. All new fish feed requires fermentation. I don't think he has talked about fermentation at all in the passage. So let me go back and see where he has talked about causing strain on the production. So here also he says aquaculture requires as fertilizer and fish food large amounts of fish food, which at the moment is sourced from fish such as anchovies and sardines. These fish body reduction in number. Okay. So fish, last sentence says, it is claimed that this fish food can be manufactured without using any arable land and almost no water. So he is giving importance to something which does not use much resources. So from here we can logically infer, we can understand that there could be other sources of fish food which would require more land and more water, and therefore they would not be desirable. So therefore reading between the lines, we can come to the conclusion that livestock production causes a great strain on resources such as land and water. So, and that was one of the places, and I don't remember exactly which sentences, but if you go ahead back and look at the passage again, there are other indications where the author, we can infer that the author is of the opinion that livestock production would cause a large drain on resources such as land and water. So that is all for today. And there was some student who had a question to ask. So I'll take that question now. Who was that? Did you have a question to ask?
No, ma'am. I'm saying that there was a line graph at the starting which stated the sentence.
Okay.
Livestock production causes a great strain on resources.
All right. Yeah, I missed that line just now.
Here, the third line. It is much more efficient than the other animal farming, in that it requires less of feed, water, and land.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, that was the line. Thank you. Okay. Anybody with a question? Yes, tell me.
Just a short question I want to ask. Which type of animal is chitinous? Can you explain about him? Animal that chitinous.
Chitinous. You want me to explain?
What is that animal? What type of animal it is?
Okay, we have to just read the passage and try to find the answer, because even I don't have any other information about chitin. Okay, so the exoskeletons of some insects such as silkworms and termites that are rich in protein contain chitin. Okay, all that the author tells us about chitin is that it is indigestible and contains and could contain accumulated pesticides. That's all I also know about chitin. If you want to know more about chitin, you'll have to ask Google. I do, and that's not
okay,
relevant.
no problem, ma'am. I'll search about it.
Yeah, please do. And
yeah, ma'am. Okay, no
okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Ma'am, I think the chitin is a biomolecule.
Right. This is more of a science question.
Yeah, bio question.
Yeah, right. Any other questions related to logical reasoning? I would take that question now. No, so therefore that would be the end of this class today, and I'll see you again on next Thursday at 1:30. I enjoyed the class. Hope you did too. And that's all for today. Good evening.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.